Welcome to Talking Heads, a project of the Africa Centre based in Cape Town. Each week, we bring you the experts, mavericks, and the thought leaders who are demanding we think differently about who and what it means to be African.
If we educate the girls today, we will thrive for decades and centuries to come.
Are you going to drop out of school and become a cashier, or are you going to go to university and become a world-renowned doctor?
Education is one of the most important weapons in a country.
Whether from the mouths of our parents, our teachers, or our leaders, it seems a common and undisputed refrain that echoes through much of life.
Education.
If you want to make something of yourself, get an education. It's like an uncontested equation. You plus education equals a better life. It's the way out of poverty. It's the way to counteract gender inequality. It's the way to equip yourself to make a difference in the world. Do a course, go to university, pick up a book, read, learn something new. Education is universally accepted as the key to almost any door. And yet primary school enrollment in African countries is one of the lowest in the world. According to UNESCO statistics, 33 million primary school-aged children in sub-Saharan Africa do not go to school. 18 million of these children are girls. Add to this the fact that Africa loses an estimated 20,000 skilled personnel a year to developed countries, and a real crisis is both present and ever looming. One possible way of tackling such a huge problem as this is bit by bit, and there are many organizations on the continent trying to make a difference in this area. TeachSA, founded by Ms. Motoba, Dr. Diaho, Mr. Masemola, and Mr. Tahedi, is one of them. Dr. Mothomang Diaho is the CEO of Teach South Africa, a program that trains top university graduates to teach in South Africa's public schools. Previously, she was the director of the Center for Memory and Dialogue at the Nelson Mandela Foundation. Dr. Diaho is a medical doctor with diplomas in child health, tropical medicine, hygiene, and public health. She has served as a medical officer in Soweto, Alexandra, Cape Town, Swaziland, and Lesotho. She also holds a master's in business from the Harvard Business School and sits on the selection panel of the Harvard South Africa Fellowship Program. But amongst her many accomplishments and responsibilities, Dr. Mothomang Diaho has been quoted as saying she's most proud of her role as a mother. I am Yewande Omotoso, and today I'm talking with Dr. Mothomang Diaho about TeachSA and her work in education. Dr. Diaho, it's my pleasure to welcome you to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us to come and share some of the excitements that we have at TeachSA.
TeachSA recruits top graduates from university, from any academic background, and they're called Teach Ambassadors. So these students are then deployed to public schools in South Africa. They're paid to teach for a minimum of 2 years. It's an incredible idea. How and when did it start?
Well, I think I'm assuming that some of your listeners might have heard of Teach for America.
My name is Lindsay Ordauer. I'm from Scotch Plains, New Jersey. New Orleans was my first choice, and Teach for America was looking to place 250 of us down here.
Which is the concept of recruiting bright students from universities to come and teach for 2 years, especially focusing in math and science. This is now 23 years old in the US, Teach First in the UK, and 32 more countries, including South Africa, which joined last year. So that is the concept, and it's done across the globe. The idea of recruiting bright people to come and teach as volunteers, really, even though they're paid, and sort of pack 2 years of their lives to address a social need it's been an amazing concept, I think, for many of us who are involved around the globe with this concept.
And how did it start here in South Africa? You were part of a group of people starting it here.
Well, the seed in South Africa came out of our leadership project with Futhi Mtoba, who's one of the co-founders, Richard Masemola and Nkosana Tahedi. My background is health, and I thought at the fundamental core, education produces all the professionals that we have that ultimately become economically active. So the idea is our idea of an entrepreneurial initiative addressing a social need as part of our Ali network here. That's how it started in South Africa.
How are the ambassadors recruited? And could you also just share some of the numbers behind the program? On average, how many students participate annually and how many schools are involved?
A total of 277 ambassadors have taught and come through this program. We have also been present in all of the 8 provinces in South Africa. We've placed in all of the 8 except the Northwest province. The numbers are huge in terms of the number of learners that have been impacted by the ambassadors. You can imagine that some of the classrooms in the public schools where we work are quite huge. So to date, we've probably impacted close to about 4,000 learners because we teach in high school and primary school. The majority of our ambassadors are placed in high school from grade 10. And in the 5 years, we've had a lot of stories coming out of the impact that these ambassadors have done, specifically to the learners, which is our greatest focus.
Yes, in visiting your website, I saw it's reciprocated because the ambassadors also benefit immensely from making a difference and being in these communities.
We see it as the sort of a two-pronged developmental model. The first impact, of course, is the ambassador teaching the child in the classroom to reverse or to improve the trajectory of their lives. We hope that because of that contact, that child's future will be completely different and improve in the future. But the second one is in the 2 years that we place ambassadors, we pump a lot of leadership, facilitation. We have sessions with people from industry. So throughout the 2 years, there's a lot of activity that the ambassadors are involved with during the holidays. So they also, we look after them in terms of their exit after the program. A lot of them now stay in teaching. A lot of them proceed and continue with their degrees. But a lot of them walk out of the system as better people with a high level of awareness about social issues as well.
TeachSA is really looking at it quite a massive endeavor. I can imagine the funding involved, the placements. As you say, there's mentoring of the teachers, there's monitoring of the recruited teachers. What are some of the challenges you face as an organization?
I think top of the list, we're an NGO. And that's a generic response, is that with initiatives like this that work with improvement of education of ambassadors, we have to have money and supporters to support us. So we need financing to support this initiative at all times. But the second biggest challenge we have, besides funding, is working with the Department of Education, who are primary partners, to identify posts in the schools that we place these ambassadors so we can place them. I think the third and final challenge, of course, is getting this model understood. And I think ambassadors are not to come in and replace existing teachers. It is to work alongside existing teachers. In fact, we emphasize that they become their own mentors in the school environment during the time that they are placed there. In addressing those challenges, one of the things that we're really happy about is emerging stories about school principals telling us amazing stories about how just having an ambassador in the school environment changes the system. The older teachers learn to use computers. The kids, of course, identify with them because of their age. A whole lot of initiatives that they start. They do legacy projects as well, over and above the teaching, that they start in schools, debating societies, they revamp those, cleaning up libraries, making sure that there are books, a whole lot of things that they do. So I think in another 5 years, I think the stories that we'll be writing will probably be immensely positive stories that these ambassadors are doing in the education space.
Do you have any views to broaden beyond South Africa?
We are aware that there's a lot of activity on the continent to start TeachSA Nigeria, Teach Zimbabwe, I think, in existence. So I think there's a lot of interest. People around the continent are aware of this model because the challenges across the board are the same, and there's this massive challenge about getting children from poor backgrounds to access adequate and quality education. And it's a global issue. So we are working with a lot of people across the continent to try to see how we can assist them, working alongside Teach for All.
As someone so closely at the coalface and so committed to making a difference to society, what are your hopes for the future, for South Africa, but also for the continent?
I've always developed a very, very strong sense of a philosophy that this continent will really only change for the better, immensely. Not in small little steps, immensely. If the youth of this continent and the Africans themselves take a huge responsibility to change this continent for the better. I think for me an initiative like Teach is an initiative that indicates that it's only the Africans living in their own countries that are going to make a huge difference. And there are many initiatives, as you know, across the continent, where especially the youth are beginning to take charge of their future. And I am very, very positive about this happening. The youth on this continent are going to show us something huge. And I would like to see that happen in my lifetime.
Thank you so much, Dr. Diaho, for speaking to us. And I applaud you and the work that you and your team do.
Thank you for reaching out to us. We hope that you will continue to support us into the future as well.
To find out more about Dr. Diaho and to listen to other podcasts, visit www.talkingheads.org.za.